The morning after my son's engagement dinner, I sat in my car in the parking lot of my lawyer's office on Barrington Street, and I couldn't make myself go in. Not because I had changed my mind, because I knew that once I walked through that door, everything would be different. And I wasn't sure I was ready to live in a world where I had become the kind of woman who does what I was about to do. I went in anyway. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I am 63 years old. I have worked with my hands since I was 17, and last Saturday evening a woman I had never met before looked at the gift I made for my son and his fiancée and said, in front of a table full of people, "Oh, homemade, how wholesome!" She said it the way you'd say, "How unfortunate." My son laughed. Not a big laugh. Just a small, polite exhale through his nose, like he was embarrassed by me. I picked up my water glass. The ice had melted. I set it back down. I did not cry. I have not cried about this yet, and I don't think I will. Let me back up. I moved to Nova Scotia from Cape Breton when I was 22 with $200, a suitcase, and a name nobody in Halifax could pronounce correctly on the first try. My mother was a seamstress. Her mother before her was a seamstress. I grew up watching women make things with their hands, curtains, dresses, quilts, school uniforms for the church, and I understood from a very young age that making something yourself did not mean you were poor. It meant you were paying attention. I got a job cleaning offices downtown. Night shifts, 6 days a week. I was good at it because I was thorough and I was quiet, and I never complained to anyone about anything. After 2 years, I had saved enough to take a bookkeeping course at the community college. After the bookkeeping course, I got a job at a property management company on Quinpool Road, answering phones and doing the filing. I watched how the business worked. I watched which properties made money and which ones didn't. I watched what happened when a landlord let a building go. I watched what happened when they didn't. When I was 28, I bought my first property, a duplex in Dartmouth, the kind of building the real estate agent apologized for before unlocking the door. I painted it myself, fixed the plumbing myself, or watched YouTube videos and then did it myself, which is almost the same thing. Found tenants, managed it myself on evenings and weekends while keeping my day job. I did not tell many people, not because I was secretive by nature, because I had learned very early that when a woman who cleans offices mentions she is buying property, people assume she has misunderstood something. I bought a second property at 31, a third at 34. By the time my son's in high school, I owned 7 units across HRM and had started quietly reinvesting the rental income into a small RRSP and a non-registered account that I managed conservatively and without drama. No one knew. My son knew I worked in property management. He thought I meant for other people. I didn't correct him. I should have. I know that now. I raised him alone. His father left when he was 4, moved to Fort McMurray for the oil, sent money for about 3 years and then stopped. I did not chase it. I did not have time to chase it. I had a child to raise and buildings to maintain and a quiet life to build one careful decision at a time. He was a good boy, sensitive, smart. He got into engineering at Dalhousie and I paid for it without telling him where the money came from, and he didn't ask, which I have thought about more than once since Saturday night. He met her at work. She's a project coordinator at the firm where he does structural consulting. She seemed fine when I met her the first time. Composed, polished, the kind of woman who has strong opinions about coffee and a skincare routine she describes as a practice. I told myself first impressions aren't fair. I told myself I was protective. I told myself to give her time. Her family is from Oakville originally. Her father is a partner at a commercial real estate law firm in Toronto. They have a place in PEI and another in Collingwood, and the kind of casual confidence that comes from never having wondered, not even once, whether there was enough. The engagement dinner was at their house in Bedford. A new build, the kind with the waterfall island and the wine fridge built into the wall. Her mother had arranged everything: flowers, caterers, a small string quartet in the living room that played through dinner. It was a Thursday in March, and the harbour was grey outside the windows, and I drove there alone. I brought the quilt. I had been working on it for 8 months. It was a double wedding ring pattern, traditional, the kind my mother made, but I had used fabric from things that mattered. A square of the flannel shirt my son wore constantly when he was 7. A piece of the curtain fabric from his first apartment. Some linen from a tablecloth my mother had brought from Cape Breton. I had pieced it and hand-quilted it over the winter, most evenings after supper, sitting by the window in the kitchen with the radio on. I wrapped it in tissue and put it in a box and drove to Bedford. Dinner was pleasant enough, or I was good enough at pretending it was. I was seated at the end of the table near her aunt and a cousin I didn't catch the name of. Her mother sat at the opposite end near my son and his fiancée, and every time I looked up she was talking and everyone near her was listening. After dessert, gifts were opened. Her family gave a weekend at an inn in Lunenburg. An envelope, I assume, contained money, a set of cookware from a store that doesn't have a location in Dartmouth. My son opened them with the right expressions: grateful, enthusiastic, properly warm. Then he opened mine. He lifted the quilt out of the tissue and held it up, and he didn't immediately understand what it was, which I hadn't anticipated, and for a moment I was explaining. It's a wedding ring pattern. That piece there is from the shirt you wore to your grandfather's funeral. This corner is from your first apartment. And then her mother's voice came from the other end of the table. Oh, homemade. How wholesome. She smiled when she said it. The kind of smile that's doing a lot of work. Her sister laughed. Not mean, exactly. The way you laugh when someone says something you know you shouldn't agree with, but do. My son held the quilt. He looked at me. He looked at it. He said, "It's really nice, Mum. Really nice. The way you say really nice about a dish at a potluck you weren't expecting much from." I picked up my water glass again. Still empty. I set it back down. Her mother was already moving on, asking someone about their summer plans. The quilt was folded and set to one side. The conversation moved on. My son moved on. I sat there for 11 more minutes. I counted, because it was the only thing I could do with my hands that wasn't obvious. Then I said I had an early start and I thanked them for a lovely evening, and I hugged my son and I shook her mother's hand and I drove home. I did not tell anyone what I was thinking on that drive. I didn't call my sister. I didn't text anyone. I drove down Highway 102 with the radio off and the heater running, and I thought clearly and carefully about what I was going to do. I should explain something about the properties. By last fall, I owned 22 units across Halifax Regional Municipality. 11 in Dartmouth, 6 in Halifax proper, 3 in Bedford, 2 in Sackville, mixed residential. A few duplexes, 2 small apartment buildings, 1 4-unit that I converted from a commercial space in 2019, and which gave me more headaches than everything else combined, but which I am genuinely proud of. I also have a portfolio of index funds and a couple of GICs, and a small interest in a friend's storage facility business outside Truro that has been dependably boring for 7 years, which is exactly what I want from it. I am not wealthy the way her family is wealthy. The Collingwood cottage, the corporate law partnership, the kind of money that makes a string quartet on a Thursday feel normal. But I am comfortable in a way that is entirely my own. Built from nothing, maintained over 40 years of careful, unglamorous work, and not owed to anyone. My son does not know any of this. I know that's strange. I know a mother should have told her son. I've thought about it many times, and the honest answer is that I started hiding it out of practicality. I didn't want him making assumptions about his future, didn't want him relaxing into the idea of an inheritance instead of building his own. And then it became habit. And then it became a strange private thing I carried. And then too much time had passed, and I didn't know how to bring it up without it being a whole conversation I wasn't ready to have. I planned to tell him eventually. I have a will. My lawyer has a file. It was all going to become clear when it needed to. Sunday morning I called my lawyer. She's been my lawyer for 16 years, a woman in her 50s who keeps her office very cold and always has a bowl of wrapped mints on her desk, and who has seen me through 2 refinances, 1 lawsuit involving a tenant and a water heater, and the dissolution of a partnership that needed to be dissolved. She picked up on the second ring, because she always does, because she is that kind of lawyer. I told her what had happened. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What do you want to do?" I told her. She was quiet again. "Then I can draw that up, but I want you to sit with it until Thursday. And if you still want it on Thursday, I'll have it ready." I sat with it until Thursday. I still wanted it. Here is what I did. My will, as it stood, left the majority of my estate, the properties, the portfolio, the storage business interest, to my son, with some set-asides for my sister's kids and a couple of organizations I've supported for years. Standard, sensible. The kind of will a careful person. I had it revised. My son's share was redirected to a trust administered by my lawyer and a community foundation here in Halifax, with the specific purpose of funding affordable housing development and maintenance support in HRM. There is also a scholarship at the Cape Breton University in my mother's name. She never got past grade 10 because there wasn't money and there wasn't time for women returning to trades training after 50. I added to it, my son receives the quilt because it was made for him and because it is his and because I want him to have something I made with my hands and know what it cost me. Not in money, but in time, which is the only thing at 63 I am genuinely running low on. He receives a letter explaining everything. The properties, the portfolio, the 40 years of early mornings and unreturned phone calls and maintenance emergencies and every careful, unglamorous decision. All of it, written down. He will read it without me there, and I think that's right. I don't want to watch his face when he understands. I don't want to manage his feelings about it. I just want him to know the fiancé's family receives nothing, which is not remarkable since I was never planning to leave them anything, but I want to be honest that it felt relevant to state it in writing, and my lawyer did not talk me out of including a line to that effect. There is one other thing. The building in Bedford, the one on the main road, the commercial strip, the one with the insurance office, and the physiotherapy clinic and the nail salon on the ground floor, and 4 residential units above. I have owned that building since 2009. It needs work, and I have been putting off the work, and when I drove past it on my way home from Bedford Saturday night, I looked at it and thought about the fact that her father's law firm uses an office in that strip to run their Atlantic Canada files. I have given notice that the commercial lease will not be renewed at the end of the term. I am not doing this out of spite, exactly. I am doing it because I have been meaning to renovate that building for 4 years and I am finally ready, and the commercial units will be residential when I'm done, and the timing is the timing. I have not spoken to my son since the dinner. He texted the next day, "Thanks for coming, Mum. Hope the drive wasn't too bad." And I replied that it was fine, because it was. I have not told him what I've done. I won't, not directly. My lawyer will contact him when the time comes, and by then I'll be past the point of having to explain myself over the phone on a Sunday afternoon. I did go back and get the quilt. I drove to his apartment the following Wednesday while he was at work. I still have a key from when I watered his plants when he went to Portugal last spring, and I took it from the top of the closet where he had put it, still in the tissue paper unopened since the dinner. I folded it and brought it home, and it's on the chair in my bedroom now. He noticed. He texted, "Mum, did you take the quilt?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Why?" I said, "I'm keeping it safe." He hasn't asked again. Maybe he's embarrassed to. Maybe he thinks I'm being odd. Maybe he's put the whole evening in a box in the back of his mind the way he put the quilt in the top of his closet, and he's moved on, and he thinks I have too. I haven't. Not because I'm holding on to anger. I'm not, or I'm trying not to, or I've at least moved it to somewhere I don't bump into it all day. But because I have spent 40 years building something real and solid and mine, and I let one evening go by without saying a single word about it, and I want to understand why. I think I understand why. I was ashamed, not of what I'd made. I will never be ashamed of that quilt, not for 1 second, but ashamed that I wanted them to know. Ashamed that I had walked in there needing something from people who had no idea who I was, and who did not ask. I'm working on that. My sister came for dinner last Friday. I told her everything. The dinner, the comment, what I'd done with the will, all of it. She listened without interrupting, which is unusual for her, and when I was done, she was quiet for a long moment, and then she said, "Do you think he loves her?" I said I thought he did. She said, "Then you might lose him over this." I've thought about that every day since she said it. I've turned it over and looked at it from the sides and underneath, and I keep coming back to the same answer, which is, maybe I might. And I am trying to be the kind of woman who can hold that possibility without flinching, who can love her son fully and completely and still not fold the quilt back into the tissue paper and pretend Saturday night didn't happen. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. I keep the quilt on the chair. In the morning when I get up to make coffee, I see it. I think about my mother cutting those pieces, or the version of my mother who might have cut them if she'd had the time and the fabric, and I think about the flannel shirt my son wore the whole winter he was 7. The collar worn soft from washing, the way he smelled of outside when he came in for dinner. I made something with my hands and it was good. It was better than good. It was the truest gift I have ever given anyone, and it was folded into tissue paper and put in a closet, and I went and got it back. That's the part I keep coming back to. Not the comment, not the table full of people, not the polite exhale from my son, not the sister at the other end who laughed. Just the quilt. Still mine. on the chair by the window where the light is good in the morning. I made it. It matters. That's all.